on the verse Ves HaNefesh Asher Asu V'Charan, on the verse that Abraham took the souls that he acquired in Haran. Rashi tells us that Avraham converted the men and Sarah converted the women. To discuss the concept of conversion, the laws of conversion, and on the level of Pshat, Remesh, Drusayid, and Chassidus. First and foremost, we begin with the Rambam. The Rambam tells us in chapter 13 of Yisurei Biyah, that the Jewish people entered into the covenant of God through doing 3 acts. Number 1, milah, circumcision. Number 2, tevilah, immersion in the mikvah. And number 3, korban, the bringing of a sacrifice. And he goes on to say, how do we know that the Jews performed the milah, circumcision? Because in Mitzrayim, in Egypt, before they were able to bring the Paschal lamb, they needed to circumcise themselves. As it says, V'chol arel lo yechal bo, anyone that was uncircumcised was not allowed to eat from the Paschal lamb. And therefore Moshe Rabbeinu circumcised them, and then therefore they were able to bring this korban, this sacrifice, in the land of Egypt. So that is the first thing, which is milah, circumcision. Number 2, tevilah. Where do we find that the Jews immersed in the mikvah before receiving the Torah? As it says, V'kidashtem hayoim u'machar. God tells them, you shall sanctify yourself today and tomorrow. V'chibsu simloisam, you shall wash your clothing. And whenever we are told you have to wash your clothing, this represents the concept of immersion in the mikvah. And similarly, the korban, the bringing of a sacrifice, it says, Vayishlach es nari b'nei Yisrael v'yalu elis. And the young men of the Jewish people brought the Eilah sacrifices, Ayidei Kol Yisrael Hakrivum, on behalf of the entire Jewish people. They were the agents that brought the sacrifices. And the Rambam goes on to say, V'chein l'doiros, and the same applies for all generations. Kishiyitze, when a person wants to convert from being a non-Jew to become a Jew, tzarech, he needs a milah, to be circumcised. Number 2, tevilah, immersion in the mikvah. And number 3, vartzar's korban, and to bring a sacrifice. Today that there's no holy temple, we cannot bring a sacrifice. But you are still 100% a convert. As the Rebbe points out, that even when Mashiach comes and the temple is built, a convert can marry off his daughter to a Kohen. And even though the Kohen is going to bring sacrifices and eat sacrifices and give it to the daughter of the convert, she's allowed to eat the sacrifices. And even the convert himself is allowed to eat the sacrifices when Mashiach comes, even before he brings a korban, before he brings his own sacrifice. Why? Because he converted now, and therefore he's 100% a convert. So this is the law of conversion. The Rambam goes on to say in chapter 14 more details. Keitzad mekablen gedei tzedek. How do we actually accept a convert? So he goes on to say, when a person comes to convert, we check and to make sure there's no reason why he is converting other than the fact that he loves God, that there are no ulterior motives. And we ask him, do you know that in the present era Jews are afflicted and crushed and subjugated and strained and suffering? And he says, yes, and still in all, I want to become Jewish. And I don't feel ra'ui, I don't feel kedai, I don't feel that I deserve it, but I want it anyway. If he says that, mekabel noisei miyad, says the Rambam, we accept him. And then what do? We begin to tell him the fundamentals of our faith. And that is, number 1, the Yuchar Hashem, to believe in the unity of God, and to deny all other gods. The Isra Averis Kechavim, and the prohibition of idolatry. And we expound on this thing, says the Rambam. And then he goes into saying, and then we begin to elaborate and inform the potential convert of some easy mitzvahs and some more difficult mitzvahs. And this is brought down also in Yeridea, in Shulchan Aruch, that this is the procedure as well. So what do we tell the convert? Number 1 is You have to give tzedakah. Tzedakah is a big thing. 10% of your earnings have to be given to charity. That's if you're a Beinoni, an average person. If you're more generous, you should give 20%. And then you go on to say, till now, if you ate cheeseburgers, there was nothing wrong. Now, if you go into McDonald's or Burger King and you have a cheeseburger, you're a sinner. It's punishable by 39 lashes. So, do you really want to change your life? Things were good up until now. You could be a good person without being Jewish. And then we tell them, till now on Shabbos and Saturday you can go play baseball and tennis and swimming and go for picnics and go to the amusement park and then drive into the mountains. But now, if you become Jewish, you can't break the Shabbos. There are 39 malachas, 39 prohibitions. You can't turn on fire and you can't turn the lights on. You can't drive a car, etc., etc. And the punishment for this is sekila, is to be punished by stoning to death. If the person says, okay, I still want to become Jewish, the Rambam goes on to say, we tell him that not only are there punishments in Judaism, but there's also rewards in Judaism. And we tell him the reward of the mitzvahs, and that through doing the mitzvahs, he will inherit Chayei Ha'olam Haba, paradise and the world to come. And this is basically the way we teach the convert. And then he goes on to say, Aval b'zman hazeh, afilu kibel olav kol ha'torah kula chutz midigduk echad ein mekabel oisai. The Rambam goes on to say in chapter 14, law number 8, however, if the convert says that I accept all the laws of the Torah, all 613 laws of the Torah, besides one detail I disagree with, says the Rambam, Ein Mekabel and Oisei, you cannot accept him. I accept everything besides the cheeseburger, I have to have the cheeseburger. Or I accept everything besides, the Shabbos, that's too hard for me. He can't convert. As Rabbi Emmanuel Shachar, of blessed memory, said that this is similar to one becoming an American citizen. If you're born in America, even if you don't accept the Constitution, you're still an American. But once you want to become an American, you were born in a foreign country, and now you come to America and you say, I want to be a citizen of the United States of America, you have to accept the entire Constitution. You can't say, I accept everything but besides one law I don't agree with. Forget it, you can't be an American citizen. And the same is true with Judaism. If you're born Jewish and you violate the Torah law, okay, you're a sinner, but you're still a Jew. If you want to become Jewish, then you have to accept upon yourself the entire Torah unconditionally. So this is the basic pshat, the basic interpretation of what it means to convert and how to convert. What is the remez? So we find that the Gemara says, Loi higla Kadosh Baruch Hu es Yisrael. That God did not send the Jews into exile, into the nations of the world, only for one purpose. And that is Ela Kedei Sheyitosfu Aleim Gedim. The reason why God sent the Jews out of Israel into foreign countries is so that they should increase in converts. That's what the Gemara says. It's the Gemara Pesachim, Pei Zayin Amud Beis, 87, side 2. What does that mean? Does that mean we have a job to convert? We know that when a person comes and wants to convert to Judaism, we actually dissuade them. We don't proselytize. We don't ask non-Jews to become Jews. If they want to, it's okay. So what does it mean that we go to the nations of the world to increase in converts? So on one level, in Chassidus it says, it represents to elevate the sparks of God that are found in the nations of the world. By the fact that Jews go there, and he makes a bracha, and then they open a shul and a yeshiva, they elevate those countries, they elevate those lands. However, there's also another interpretation that is literal. that the job of the Jewish people literally are to find those sparks of the lost souls and to convert them and bring them back to Judaism. And this also explains an interesting teaching in the Torah. In the book of Isaiah it says, when the Jews will come back to the land of Israel, we read this on the final day of Passover, it says they will split the Euphrates into 7 channels. That God will perform a miracle, and the Jews will go cross over the Euphrates, and it will split into 7 different canals. And the question is, why 7? We find the Medrash tells us when they left Egypt and they went through the Sea of Reeds, it split into 12 different canals or channels. Why now is it less? One of the answers to the question is that when the Jews came out of Egypt, the Jews left Egypt. The Jews were leaving their exile, and therefore the Jews are represented by the 12 tribes. However, this exile, when the Jews will come back to the land of Israel, it won't only be the Jews. They're going to bring with them all the nations of the world, which are represented by the 7 canals, or the 7 channels, alluding to the 7 Noahide laws that are followed by the 70 nations of the world. So the Jews are le'er goyim, a light unto all the nations. And that's why they are in exile, to teach the nations of the world about ethics and godliness. And as the Rambam says, v'holchu, that all the nations, v'nahadu love, they will come together and they will speak one language, and they will all flow and flock towards the Holy Temple. So this is the remez, the hint of conversion. What is the drush, or the halacha? We find an interesting mitzvah in the Rambam. The Rambam quotes from the Torah, Exodus 22:20. It says, "V'yahavtem es hager," you shall love the convert. Ki geidem hayisem be'eretz Mitzrayim, because you yourselves were strangers in the land of Egypt. The word convert, ger, could mean a stranger. You are strangers, and therefore you have to also love the stranger. And the Rambam goes on to explain that even though we have a mitzvah, v'yahavta l'reacha kamocha, to love every Jew as yourself, and now the convert who converts is 100% Jewish, so seemingly he is included in the mitzvah of love your fellow Jew. Why must the Torah give us another mitzvah to love the convert? And he says to tell us that by loving the convert, you are fulfilling 2 mitzvahs. A, you're loving the Jew and you're loving the convert. And similarly, it says, "V'ger lo yisayna," you shall not mistreat a stranger, and you shall not oppress him. For you are strangers in the land of Egypt. Here too, you shall not mistreat the convert. And even though you may not abuse another Jew or cheat from another Jew, but by mistreating or cheating from the convert, you are violating 2 laws. One is don't abuse your fellow Jew, and number 2 is don't oppress the convert. And the reason is the convert went through this journey, left everything behind, gave up his parents and his family and his religion, and converted to a new place, a new religion, changed his whole life to come under the wings of God, and therefore he is very sensitive. And you therefore have to be very careful and merciful when it comes to your approach with the convert. As Rashi says, even up until 10 generations, they're still sensitive that they came from converts, and therefore we have to give them additional love and additional attention. Rabbi Bamzer of Alav Shalom, of blessed memory, who used to convert, once told me that he brought a convert to the Rebbe for dollars on Sunday morning. And he went by the Rebbe and told the Rebbe, "This man just converted." So the Rebbe turned to the man and he said to him, "You are greater than me." And he gave him money for tzedakah, and he gave him $1. And later Rabbi Bamzer said, what did the Rebbe mean that this convert was greater than the Rebbe? So Rabbi Bamzer offered his own interpretation, and he said, because of this Rambam, that if you love a Jew, you get one mitzvah. If you love a convert, you get two mitzvahs. So you're greater than me. Perhaps that is one answer. I believe it could also be another answer. And that is the Rambam, in a famous responsa to Rabbi Vadya Hager. The Rambam tells this convert, Rabbi Vadya, the convert, he says like this: we, the Jewish people, are children of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And who are you children of? If you are a convert, and therefore a convert is known to be like a newly born child, who is your father? So the Rambam told the convert, you are the child. You are directly connected to the one who said, and the world came into being. In other words, you are directly a descendant of God. Banim lamokim. You are God's child. And maybe this is what the Rebbe means, that you are greater than me because you are directly a child of God. On this note, there was a woman who once went to the Rebbe and to Yechidus and to a private audience, and she asked the Rebbe, what Tehillim should I say? As you know, it's customary that we say a psalm based on our age. If a person is, let's say, 10 years old, they say Psalm 11. If they're 29 years old, you say Psalm 30. And this gives you blessing and success. And we try to do this every day. So the convert asked the Rebbe, what Tehillim should I say? Should I say the Tehillim based on my biological birth? Or should I say the Tehillim based on my birth by becoming a convert? And the Rebbe responded, you should do your Tehillim based on your conversion. Because once you convert, the past no longer exists. In other words, you did not exist before this date. This is your birth date. This is the day you were born. That was the day you converted. So this is the concept of drush. What is soid? The esoteric. There's a beautiful teaching of the Erech Chaim HaKadosh on the passage of Kiseisi la Mechama Levecha, where you go out to war, V're'isa V'shivya Eshes Yifas Toya V'chashakta Ba, and you will see a beautiful woman and you will desire her. Says the Erech Chaim, why does God cause that the soldier should now see this beautiful woman and desire her when he went out to war? And the Erech Chaim HaKadosh explains that based on Soid, based on the esoteric teachings of the Torah, that these people that the soldiers desire are really souls and sparks of Jews. And that it was through the sin of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, when they ate from the forbidden fruit, what happened was that they caused sparks to break off, and these sparks that broke went into the other nations of the world. And these were originally sparks that belonged to the Jewish people. And now these soldiers have to retrieve these sparks. And therefore a convert, according to Kabbalah, as the Rebbe points out many times, we find in the Mishnah the terminology a convert that converts. It doesn't say a non-Jew that converts. It simply says a convert that converts. Geir shenis gayer. Why? Because a convert was always a Jew. In other words, their soul was a spark from a Jew. And therefore he goes on to say that ultimately a true convert has no choice. They must convert because they have this compelling desire to return to their source, to return to their people. It's only a question, the bechira, the choice is when are they going to convert, now or later. But the soul has this burning desire that it wants to come back to its people. I had a woman here in the synagogue many years ago who came to me. She says, Rabbi, I want to convert. I say, why do you want to convert? You have a boyfriend? No, I have no boyfriend. So tell me, why are you converting to Judaism? I'll tell you the truth, Rabbi. I had a dream. My mother came to me in my dream, and she told me, go back to your people, go back to your people. That's why I want to convert. I know that I'm Jewish. I want to go back to my people. So this is the concept based on the esoteric teaching of the Torah, that not only is a convert someone that is 100% Jewish, but in essence a convert was someone that was always Jewish. Geish in his Gair, a convert that converts. And that is why these soldiers went out to war, to find these lost sparks and these lost souls, to retrieve them and bring them back to their people. And finally, based on Chassidus, we have a question, and that is, what happened to the converts that Abraham and Sarah converted? We don't see any continuity or any nation that came out of these converts that Avraham and Sarah converted. On the contrary, Jacob went down to Egypt with only 70 people, 70 souls. Where were all the souls that Abraham and Sarah converted? And the answers to the question is that they never continued. They never went on to the next generation. Why? As the Medrash says, that the mitzvahs that our forefathers did before the giving of the Torah, reichus hayu, they were like ear. In other words, in those times, even though you did a mitzvah, but before the Torah was given, the mitzvah that you did in a physical object was only a means to an end. But the physical object itself did not change. For example, today you have a pair of tefillin. You have boxes which are made up from leather, from an animal, a kosher animal, and inside there are 4 portions that are written, 4 different portions of the Torah, and you put it on your head and your arm, and you make a bracha on it. These 2 boxes of tefillin are now a holy object. They're no longer a hide of an animal. They were transformed. And they become a holy object. And the same is true with the Sefer Torah. It's not simply a book that has ink on parchment and tells the story of the exodus of Egypt. It's not a history book. The Torah is a holy book. It became now a chefes shel kedusha, a holy entity, a holy object. It was transformed. But this concept of transformation took place after the Torah was given. Before the Torah was given, there was a separation of heaven and earth, a separation of the spiritual and the physical. The spiritual remained spiritual, and the physical remained the physical remained the physical. And therefore there was no way to combine these 2 worlds. Yes, you would use the physical as a means to get to the spiritual, but the physical remained physical. It did not become spiritual. It did not become holy. Only after God gave the Torah in Sinai, when God said, Anochi Hashem lekecha, I am God your Lord, God put himself into the letters of Torah. God put himself into the actual objects that are used for the mitzvah. And therefore these objects now become holy. And this answers the question that if Avraham already converted people and Sarah converted people, and Avraham and Sarah, according to many Rishonim, were not considered to be Ben Noach, they were not considered to be Noachites, why did they have to convert at Sinai? Yet the Rambam says, by doing these 3 things, and it's based on a Gemara, by doing these 3 things, the Jews entered into the covenant of God. In other words, the Jews went through a national conversion on Sinai. But they were already Jewish. And the answer is that up until then, the mitzvahs that they did were reichos, were like ear, a fragrance. They were nothing physical. It was only after they heard the Torah mipi hagavura, from God himself, did that change the entire reality. And therefore they became changed people. They were transformed after seeing God at Sinai. And that is the objective of a convert. that what is a convert? Like a newly born child. And this transformation only took place after Sinai. And similarly, this answers a question that if the Jewish people already said on the 5th day of the month of Sivan, Na'aseh v'nishma, we will do and we will listen, we accept upon ourselves the entire Torah, why then did God have to put a mountain on top of their heads and say to them, if you accept the Torah, fine, if not, I'm going to put the mountain down and make you into mashed potatoes? What was the reason behind it? They already accepted. And the answer is, you could not really accept the Torah until you heard the Torah from God. You could agree to follow the Torah, but true acceptance of the Torah is only once the Torah was given. And therefore, only after Sinai, only after the revelation of God, and only after the giving of the 10 Commandments, and then the 613 laws of the Torah, only then were they truly able to be true converts, and therefore they were transformed into new people, and then they became Am Kodesh, a holy nation. There's a story told of Avraham ben Avraham, known as the Ger of Vilna, a person who converted, and then he came back home to his hometown, and when they found out who he was, they tried to dissuade him from this conversion. And when he did not want to leave his Jewish path, the verdict was death by fire. So the person that was supposed to put him on fire was an old friend of his. So his old classmate, his old friend, asked Avraham ben Avraham, if I put you to death, and then you're going to go to paradise, in paradise, are you going to curse me? Are you going to bring evil upon me because of what I am doing to you? And Avraham said, I'll tell you a story. When we were children, we would play together. And one day my father bought me a beautiful toy soldier. And as I left the room, being that my toy soldier was nicer than your toy soldier, you broke my toy soldier. I came back into the room and I saw what you did. I was very upset. And for a long time I couldn't get over it. I was so upset. How could my friend break my toy soldier? When I got older, I realized, why am I going crazy over a toy soldier? I have so much that life has to offer. I'm living in a rich house, and my family is so nice to me, and I have the best schools that I go to, and I have everything that I need to have to worry about the little toy soldier. And therefore he turns to his friend and says, look, when a Jew dies by fire to sanctify God's name, he goes to the highest levels of paradise. When I go to paradise and I bask in the waters of God's knowledge, and I'm sitting together with all the saints and all the prophets of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and Moses, you think I'm going to think about you? You're going to be totally irrelevant. We hope and pray that we will do what we have to do to teach the world the knowledge of God, and to see how the entire world will be a world of peace and tranquility. And the entire world will be filled with the knowledge of God as the waters cover the sea.